All right, boys and girls. So this is what my wrist looked like the day I broke it. Nice and squiggly, uh, nice and just all over the place. I want to make a video just basically documenting my recovery because when something happens to you, the first thing you do is you go to Google, you start Googling things. You want to see other people's stories, you want to see other people's recoveries, and you want to see, how things turned out for them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find anything where somebody fractured their wrist or broke their wrist and documented their story and kind of was able to show you one thing in particular that I wanted to see, which was to recover and then get back in the gym, right? Get back in the gym and lift the way you used to lift. There's a lot of stories out there, people recovering and getting their mobility back and their range of motion back, but nothing that specifically kind of documents the person who, like myself, who was in the gym fairly regularly and then broke their wrist and then now is recovering and wants to get back in the gym, and how that plays out and how their recovery is, and the effects that a fractured wrist might have on getting back in the gym. So this is what was done the day of. This is what's called a closed reduction or a bone reduction. Basically what they do is they'll hang this weight near that bicep area and put your fingers in these little traps. I'm not sure if you remember those little traps in the carnival where you put your fingers in on both sides and then you try to pull them apart and you can't because you're stuck, and the only way to kind of get your fingers out is to push both fingers together. You know what I'm talking about. I used to hate those. Nobody ever taught you how to use those, and as a kid it used to drive me crazy, but then you learn how to use them. But anyway, basically, once your hand is suspended like that in those traps, they hang that weight on your bicep to kind of, to kind of put weight on one side of the bone and then put just kind of stretch it out. I'm not really sure how to explain it. All I know is that was done, and while your hand is kind of hanging there, the doctor, he's going to basically try to manipulate the bone back into place, which is extremely painful. Basically, if you could just imagine somebody squeezing the living hell out of your broken wrist and just kind of trying to reposition it, and it was barbaric. So the doctor did an amazing job. He was able to basically reposition the bone. I'll show you that in just a bit, but this was the first x-ray that I got that initially was like, hey, you broke your wrist, So the two arrows that I put in the picture kind of basically are illustrating how far off the bone is. Those arrows should essentially be parallel to one another, and I'll show you in just a bit what the x-ray looks like after the bone reduction. But if you look at this one, you'll just see how off that is, and also just that small little crack there is illustrating a little bit of the break as well. But I'll show you more of that in just a bit. So this is the x-ray after the bone reduction, after the doctor actually kind of squeezed the wrist and just kind of manipulated the bone back in place. As you can tell, the two arrows, they're kind of matching up. If you kind of view it as like a U-shaped, those two tops of the U's are kind of like right next to each other. So this is actually was just enough for the doctor to say, you know what, you don't need surgery. We're going to put a cast on you and we're going to just allow it to heal. We allow your body to heal it. So this is just another view of the fracture. If you see where I put the lines, the bone actually broke across. It's really hard to tell in this picture, but it starts where that arrow is, and then if you look across the bone where I initially had that white line, if you look closely, you can kind of see that little separation there, and that's kind of where the bone broke. So this is exactly 1 week after the accident. As you can see, the wrist is a lot straighter. And a day after this, I had visited the surgeon, and he practically told me, he was like, hey, you don't need surgery. We're going to put a cast on you and we're going to let it heal naturally. Initially, I had a splint. This is what I initially had. That thing smells crazy. As you can imagine, just walking around with that thing for an entire week. But as you can tell, that it was a cast. It was made out of a cast material, but it wasn't necessarily a solid cast. It was just kind of what they refer to as a 3-point cast. where it just kind of goes around your hand. And it doesn't really secure the wrist. Luckily, the bone stayed in place. It didn't move around too much. And here we are. They went ahead and put a cast on me. They asked me to return within a week for another x-ray to see if the bone is moving. And that's really the main issue here. If the bone is staying in place, then we could just continue to allow it continue to allow it to heal naturally. And if it does move out of place, then we'll need to do surgery. And so that's where we're at. Obviously a long way to go. I know this is going to take anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks to heal. And then after that, we're going to do rehab. And then, it's a long road to get back in the gym. But I know if I just kind of do what the doc is telling me and take time to heal and take time to get strong again, I'll be able to do it. Look forward to sharing my experience with you guys. And hopefully something in this video helps somebody out there.